The long-awaited immigration policy is now out.
Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders and close the book on a squalid chapter for our politics, our economy, and our country.
And the question is, how does this affect you and I as IMG doctors? Both the IMG doctors who are already in the UK and those who are still hoping to come into the UK. So that's basically the discussion we are going to be having in this video today, because I was able to read through the white paper document, and I am just going to be highlighting some of the few changes that I feel will impact on doctors, especially the IMG doctors, and then we will see what exactly is the current situation. And as it seems right now, there seem to be a lot of unanswered questions, some gray areas, especially when it relates to professionals like doctors, nurses, and it's probably going to get clear in the future. But based on the available information, how does this old policy, this old change, how is it going to affect you as a doctor in the UK? So let's get right into that discussion today. Hello, my name is Blessing, and I am a first year psychiatry trainee, a doctor currently practicing here in the UK. And on this channel, I share all about IMG doctors. I also share about my journey, especially as a doctor in training here in the UK. And I also use the opportunity to talk a little bit about doctor's life, medicine, and a whole lot about that. So you're welcome to become a part of the community. But then let's get right into the course of today's discussion. I usually say that it is not difficult to have an idea of the policies that are going to be rolled out in the future in a country like UK. I've only been in this country for about 2 years, but then in this short space of time, I have come to realize that anytime a matter is becoming of public importance, when it's becoming quite popular on the media, any discussion at all that is beginning to get a lot of attention, a lot of reaction, especially from the British locals, like the British citizens, the local British people, know that it's only a matter of months or years. Years is actually too long. It's only a matter of months before policies are going to be made concerning those kind of subjects or topic. And a lot of times is usually in a particular direction, that which favors the people. And so I'm just basically saying that I am actually not surprised at the whole immigration changes, and it's actually been in the air for a while. So during the Conservative Party regime, they made some changes to immigration, or they actually had a whole lot of plans about changes they were going to make to immigration. They actually kickstarted some of them, but then they couldn't finish up with everything before until the end of their tenure. And now it's become very popular, especially by this growing Reform Party. And finally, the current ruling party, which is the Labour Party, has finally taken a stand to do something about immigration. And so looking through the document, I realized that the reason why the government seemed to be worried about the whole immigration thing is that, number one, they actually see that based on statistics, that the number of net immigration over the last 5 years has been unimaginable. They have actually not recorded that number of immigration like in previous years. And so between June 2019 to June 2023, it was said that the number actually increased from 224,000 to over 900,000. That is actually like significant. That is going towards a million, in just 4 years. And so it was said that in 2024, this actually reduced to about just a little over 700,000. And probably that was because of some of the policies that the Conservative Party started. But now here we are. And looking at that document, it's clear that the government is like tackling this in every way possible. Like now it's more like they are going against the whole immigration thing through every means possible, and no stone will be left unturned. So now, how does this affect you and I as IMG doctors? So the first thing is, for doctors, I'm going to be talking about this in two categories: for doctors who are already in the UK and for doctors who are still outside of the UK. But before I get onto that, I think some things that I feel, some of the changes that I feel will actually affect doctors is, one, the changes that were made to the end status, end settlement status, and the end citizen status. That is going to impact significantly on IMG doctors who are already in the UK. Some other changes that I feel will also affect IMG doctors will be the change to the English language requirement, the proposed change to the Life in the UK test, and also the increased immigration skills charge. So I'm just going to delve into this a little bit more clearly. And so now, talking about the two categories of IMG doctors. Now, the document has been released. We have an idea of, oh, this is what is being proposed, this is what is going to happen, but then we don't know how, when is it starting. Like, I feel like the questions I have, they are: one, is this taking effect from May 12th for those who are just going to be coming into the UK from that date? Or is this going to affect even those who are already in the system? A lot of people are speculating that a lot of times when policies are changed like that, it usually affects those who will just be coming into the system. But then we don't understand this time around, based on the current situation of things, if all of these changes are also going to be affecting those who are already working in the UK. So that is some of the gray areas I was talking about. We want to know. Having an answer to this question will probably help us to know what exactly we should prepare ourselves for, or what to expect in the coming months or in the coming years. Okay, so for IMG doctors who are already in the UK, mainly the way this immigration policy is going to affect doctors who are already in the UK is because of the end settlement status changes. Now, usually in the past, if you work for about 5 years as a doctor, as a skilled worker, after 5 years, you're able to apply for ILR, and a year after, you're able to apply for citizenship. But now, it's now been said that instead of 5 years, this has now been doubled to 10 years. However, it seems to be that there is actually a caveat to this criteria. So it's not going to be like a blanket 10 years for everyone, but then some considerations could be made for professionals or for individuals who are perceived to be contributing significantly to the economy. So more like those who are valuable to our economy, some considerations can be made for them. However, what is unclear is what are these considerations? Like, what exactly should we expect? Though it's said that the parliament is going to decide on these considerations, but then I just feel like we really want to know, because are you saying that, oh, instead of 10 years, are you reducing it to 7 years? Or is there something, like, is it now going to be something that will become quite competitive? That some people, you have to be earning so amount of money for you to be able to qualify. We just want to have a clearer picture of this. The reason why this needs to be clear is that usually, as an IMG doctor, for you to be able to live and work in the UK, you need what we call a certificate of sponsorship. And for a lot of organizations, besides the Health Education England that gives up to about 3 years of sponsorship for those who are in training, a lot of health institutions usually offer COS for about a year or two, even some for 6 months. Now, the implication of this is that a doctor, an IMG doctor who is in a non-training role or who has not been able to commence a specialty training program, will have to be seeking for COS, like sponsorship, every year. Now, the and having to deal with this for 5 years is very stressful and impacts on people. And even recently, some healthcare professionals were actually asking if this could even be reduced to lesser than 5 years, because this puts you at the mercies of employers. and it's actually very stressful. You get a job that offers a year of sponsorship, and then 6 months right into that job, you have started making applications for that jobs, because with the current job situation, with the current NHS job crisis, it's even becoming much more difficult to get jobs, non-training roles that are willing to offer sponsorship. With this change or extension of the period for settlement, there may be some other changes to needs to be made in terms of job, like organizations being willing to offer up to about 3 or even 4 years of sponsorship, so that a doctor doesn't have to keep jumping from one organization to another. It's actually very stressful. I've seen situations where people have to relocate out of a part of the UK because they couldn't find job. For example, a doctor who is working in England, he couldn't get a job willing to offer him sponsorship for another year. He only got one in Scotland, and so he had to relocate all the way from England to Scotland. And so just imagine if in another year he doesn't get in Scotland, and it's not going to be convenient moving around like that. So I think that is going to impact significantly on doctors, IMG doctors, who need this certificate of sponsorship. And there are also a whole lot of things around working for employers for such a long period of time. And then the second part is the end citizenship status. Now, before, it's usually like a year after settlement, you can apply for citizenship. But with the current situation of things, it seems like they are considering extending the duration, making some changes to that duration. But we don't know how long this is going to take. But we know that definitely the whole idea is they are trying to reduce the number of people who become, the number of immigrants who become British citizens. And so the next thing that I feel might impact on IMG doctors who are already in the UK is the changes that will be made to the Life in the UK test. So it's actually now being proposed that some changes are going to be made to the Life in the UK test. And I guess that this is probably to toughen the exam, maybe to change, the format of the exam to, I don't really know, but of course we'll get to know in the nearest future. But some of these changes can make it more difficult for people to actually meet this criteria that is needed for you to achieve a settled status. Now, going over to IMG doctors who are not yet in the UK, who are hoping to actually come into the system. Number one, we are going to start from the change to the English language requirement. So previously, there is a certain level of English language requirement. I think for a doctor, you need about a total of 8.0 for the IELTS. And I don't know the figure for OET, but now what they are basically saying is that they are going to make changes. Most likely they are going to increase this criteria, and that way it's going to become much more difficult for an international medical graduate to be able to kickstart the whole PLAB pathway, because that English language test is usually like a major rate limiting step. And the other part to it is that for anyone who is actually applying to come work in the UK, before it used to be only the applicants who should be able to provide evidence of their English proficiency. But now it is not just the applicant, but also their dependent, meaning their spouse and any child above 18 years, needs to be able to prove that they are proficient in English language. And so all of these changes might actually slow down how easy it is for an overseas doctor to actually be able to move or relocate to the UK. So the next thing is the increase in the immigration skills charge. And this is basically to discourage employers from employing overseas professionals. Reading through the document, something that was being emphasized over and over is the fact that they do not want to keep relying on overseas professionals to just come and do the job. Rather, they are more interested in overseas professionals who are able to also provide some level of training to their domestic professionals, to local professionals. What the UK government is pursuing right now is that they want to train more professionals locally to be able to, fill in all of these spaces that they used to bring overseas professionals to fill. So more like, instead of recruiting more international doctors, we want to train more doctors, we want to train more professionals that can get the job done. And we've already seen that happening. In my previous video, I was talking about the NHS long-term plan and why, and some of the reasons why it might be more difficult for an IMG doctor to get a job. If you have not yet seen the video, then you should actually watch the video. And you could also have a look at the document to understand the full picture of this plan that the NHS is pursuing. Employers will have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they couldn't find any doctor locally to fill in that role within the UK, and that is why they are going for an international professional. So that is going to be a very difficult position for a lot of employers to be. And also, they are also making international employment unattractive now because they have increased the price of COS up to about 120%. So that is also to discourage employers from bringing in overseas professionals. So I feel like these are some of the ways that these changes are going to affect you and I as IMG doctors. However, just like I said, there are still a lot of unanswered questions. A lot of things are still not very clear. And I am hoping that in the nearest future, more details are going to come about this proposed changes, and it's going to become clearer, and it will be like we will know what exactly to expect. And so in conclusion, I think that over the past few months, some doctors have, I mean, IMG doctors have actually found their way out of the UK. And for some persons who are still having some cold feet, I guess this might actually be like the final push for them to, take that step. Because really, I feel like if all of these things are going to be including the IMG doctors who are already in the system, then it's going to really make the job very unattractive. It's going to make the UK as a place very unattractive. And I always say it, if a person had the courage to leave their home country to another country to work as a professional, I also think that they can also leave that country and go to another country that is able to meet their needs. So basically, what I'm just saying is that if all of this is going to affect IMG doctors who are already in the system, then also I anticipate that there's going to be an emigration of a lot of international medical doctors already in the UK. But let's see how it all unfolds. Fingers crossed, and we keep watching to see what changes are going to be made and the extent of these changes and how it is going to impact on you, on myself as IMG doctors. I want to know your thoughts. What do you guys think about this whole immigration thing? What do you feel? Do you think this is going to affect the doctors who are already in the system, based on past records? Or do you think that this is mainly going to be for those who are just going to be coming into the system? I really want to know what you guys think. So till I see you guys again, take care and bye.